Okay, it's 1 o'clock on Sunday, and I started streaming on my computer, but we've got another one to the side to see if it's showing up, and nothing's showing up yet.
I don't see anything yet.
And this is the first one, so I don't know what I'm doing.
Okay, there's a thing that says the live stream is on now, so I'm going to click on that.
And
yeah,
this is the first one, so I don't know. So there's a time delay.
There must be.
So what did I just see over there?
It's me talking. Now hold on. Let me refresh it.
Okay, I'm going to talk. Okay, I can always edit this bit out later. So I have no idea what's going on. I'm supposed to get down the side of the screen, there's supposed to be comments from you. It looks like that's not working. So what we'll do today then is I've got various points to make, and if anybody wants to phone in, there should be something via YouTube down the side. Let me see if I can make that smaller. No, I don't know. Okay. Okay, so I've got a few things to talk about, and then if you want to phone in, the number, I'll tell you the number in a minute if you want to get something to write it with. My assistant's just moving around.
You know, I want to listen to the stream on this computer, but it'll mess you up. So if you can unplug those headphones, and I'll just listen.
Okay.
And I'll try asking a question and see if something pops up.
Okay. Okay. So anyway, I was going to talk about. Okay, the phone number, if you want, is area code 905 450 7998. And I'll give you again 905 450 7998. And I've got the phone here. Yep, it works. Okay, so what I want to do today is I want to talk about the Mona Lisa, the Spanish Armada, a bit about chess, and then I'm going to look at 9 cards that somebody chose to figure out. There were somebody's building a house, right? She and her husband are building a house, and they had to figure out which electrician they were going to hire to do the electrical work in the house. And they had 3 people in mind, and they weren't sure which person to choose. So the reader chose 3 cards for each of the electricians, and I was going to look at all 9 cards and give you an idea of how you could make sense of the cards that came up to determine who's the best bet, let's say, for somebody that you might hire. Let me just ask, can you hear this okay?
Yeah, it works. It's
okay.
Fine.
So go
Sorry
on.
if I can interrupt. The questions are coming up on YouTube.
Oh, they are?
Yeah, so you're going to have to minimize that screen and pull up your browser.
Okay. I've just been told that the things are coming up on screen, so that's my browser there. And then I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go to there, and then I'm going to go to YouTube, and
so you want to go to your channel?
To here.
Yep.
And then I go to there.
Yeah, see if that pulls it up.
Streaming.
Go to live streaming.
Live streaming.
And on the right-hand side, the lower down, see chat.
Okay.
So you might want to just slide it, yeah.
Oh, suddenly there's all these people here. Well, okay, so we've got Judy Kerr. Hello, Judy. Hello to you. And then we've got Peter. Oh, Peter Glynn. I mean, Peter, I can't remember the strange football names that you used to give. Anyway, there's various people. Hi. I'm not sure. Okay, streaming right now. If they do, okay. I'm just going to talk then. So I'll keep an eye on the streams.
Yeah, if you keep it there, the latest one should pop up.
Okay.
See, that just popped up.
Thanks. Oh, Colin Robertson. Yeah, I just emailed you this morning. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk, and I'll look at the comments, and if you've got a specific question you want to ask, put it in there, and I'll try and answer it at the time. But the reason I wanted to start with the Mona Lisa is I think it has to do with how does the tarot work and what's really going on with the tarot reading, and is it valid and is it logical, and or is it a piece of nonsense, which a lot of people think it is. And it's a bit, here's an example. Let's say you and I are in Paris, right? We're walking through the Louvre, and you're talking up at that particular moment. Hello, Jill. I can't see that. Okay. So anyway, we're walking through the Louvre, and you're telling me, okay, you've got an interview tomorrow for a job, and you're not quite sure how to handle the interview and how you should act during the interview. And we stop at that moment and we look up, and there we are looking at the Mona Lisa, right, who's got this inscrutable smile. So because you asked that question at that moment about that interview tomorrow, and we looked at and we both saw the Mona Lisa, the picture of the Mona Lisa is the key or the clue, or that's how you should handle the interview tomorrow. So you don't go in looking confident or looking sheepish and thinking you owe them. You go in looking as if you know something they don't know, right? The way the Mona Lisa looks, because she's got this inscrutable smile. So that's in the moment of asking the question about a particular circumstance that's coming up tomorrow. We're looking around us for a key or a clue or information on the best way to deal with this, with the question that was in your mind at the moment that we saw the Mona Lisa. We're not looking for a rule or a law that tells you that every time you have an interview, act like the Mona Lisa. It was for that interview tomorrow with those people in that company, based on you as you are right now. Okay, because you could find that you have an interview with a different company the following day, and you've been slightly changed by the interview you have tomorrow. So you could find that you've got a very different way, or there's a very different type of recommendation on how to handle the interview the following day. Even though not much time has passed, you've been changed a bit, and it's different people you're talking to, right? So I think that's what's going on with the tarot reading, because people have questions and they want to know, like right now and into the future, what's the best thing to do, or what's the most sensible, or what will give me the best chance of an outcome that I'd be happy with and a result that I would want. There's another, so that's the Mona Lisa, and that's understanding that the tarot is in the moment, and it's for that particular moment, for that particular question, for that particular questioner at that time. So in a sense, cards don't mean anything, because it depends on the question. But I'll get to that in a bit. The reason I want to talk about the Spanish Armada was because in like 500 years ago, Spain was the biggest, the superpower in the world because of its navy mainly, but also its holdings in Europe, the parts of Europe that it ruled. But the Spanish Armada was the big thing because of this big navy. Okay, so the Spanish Armada was defeated in 1588, I think it was, by the English navy, and after that, Britain or England became the world superpower because of its navy. And at the time, Elizabeth I was the Queen of England, right? And somebody painted a portrait of her, and it was ornate. She's wearing a crown and all the rest of it. So Elizabeth is also wearing pearls around her neck, right? So when you look at the picture, you may look at the pearls and not see much, but when you think of it, a pearl comes from an oyster, which lives in the sea. So Elizabeth wearing a string of pearls, in its own way, was sending a message to everybody who saw it that she rules the waves, that the English Navy rules the world, or basically rules the world. So with wearing a string of pearls in that official portrait is like saying, it's sort of advertising the fact that she has power, right? So let's say it's instead of stopping in front of the Mona Lisa, we stop in front of this painting of Elizabeth. Then what you do in the interview is you go in, but you promote yourself, or you let people know about your achievements and your accomplishments. So if somebody says, okay, what would you bring to the company? Why should we hire you? Instead of you acting and saying, well, and being modest, right, and saying, well, I'm quite a good worker. You don't. You tell them what you've done, what you've accomplished, what you've achieved, in the same way that Elizabeth wears the pearls. And I think that's what we've got with the tarot as well, where we've got a picture, and we're looking at the picture. Sorry, I was just reading a comment. Judy just wrote, cards don't mean anything because it depends on the question. Okay, and I think that's important because you can have a card like the Sun upright, which represents success and having a plan and knowing what direction you want to go in. And that can be good if you want success. But if you want failure, or if you want something to not work out, the Sun in the future is a bad card. And let's say you work in advertising and your boss gives you some ideas for an advertising campaign that he wants you to put in motion, and you don't think it's a very good idea, good campaign. You think it's not gonna work. So if you ask for, you think you ask, okay, is this plan going to work? And you get the Sun reversed. That means, okay, I'm getting a little bit mixed up here. So if you want the plan to fail, the Sun is not a good, even though it represents success, it's not going to be an answer that you would want, right? Because you don't think, you would rather have your plan adopted by the agency for the advertising campaign. And maybe your campaign is better, but it's more the idea that we have to judge each question and each card on its own merits, rather than, okay, I've got the Sun, that's automatically good, everything is going to be wonderful. Maybe, but it's also important to think about the question that was asked and judge the card accordingly. And we'll get to that with the question about the electricians. And I just noticed, I'm looking at the screen here, and we're now 12 minutes and 59 seconds elapsed time. So I've got a clock at the side there, and I've discovered that I don't actually need it. So YouTube is a lot better organized than I was giving it credit for. It's all here in front of me. Okay, so that was the Mona Lisa. And the fact that it's a picture and it's got a message, or we can look at the picture and see some kind of message in it. And the Spanish Armada as well. And I was going to mention chess as well. And this is just a throwaway thing. It's not really relating to anything in particular, but I found myself in the last 2 or 3 months, I kept watching, I don't know why, but I kept watching chess videos on YouTube. Magnus Carlsen and Bobby Fischer, and interviews with people, but I would watch, there were various people will show you each move that's made. That I was looking for explanation of why this was a good move and what he was thinking at the time that he moved it. So I was looking for instruction as well, and I didn't know why I was doing it, because I'm not really going to play chess. But I like the idea of chess for some reason. And then it struck me, several weeks into this, spending time watching chess videos, it occurred to me, maybe it's because it relates to the tarot, because a card for the future, right, let's say you do a past, present and future spread, and you get the card for the future. The card for the future can represent the best move you can make at that time. Because that's what chess is about. You've got if you're white and you're starting, you've got 24 moves you can make. You've got the pawns can move 1 or 2 paces, and then you've got the knights can move as well. I think it's 20 or 24. But then the other person has got a bigger number because they can also respond to what you've done. So it very quickly gets into huge combinations of moves that you could make. So the test is, what's the best move you can make to put you in a strong position? And there's certain ways of thinking about the chessboard. Like, you want to control the 4 squares in the middle. If you're actually on those squares or controlling those squares, that puts you in a strong position. And the odds are that you're going to win the game because you're much stronger anyway. So think of if you're doing a past, present, and future, or a Celtic cross spread, because the Celtic cross has got 1 card that represents what may come for the future. It's also got what will come. It's also got a final outcome, right? So you get 3 cards that represent future conditions, definite or possible future conditions. So if you, instead of thinking about the future as being something that we can't know, or instead of being vague with in your own mind about what the future is, think of it as the best move you can make at this time, right? Okay, so the 9 cards for the electrician. So what I did was, this person, they're building a house, and the woman and her husband are building the house, or they're paying people to build it for them. And they wanted to know, they had 3 electricians, and they wanted to know who should they choose to be the electrician for to do the work. And so the reader had chosen 3 cards for each and done a little bit of interpretation. Happy New Year to you, Spooky Boo 23. The reader had chosen 3 cards for each and had sent me some analysis and interpretation of those 3 cards, and wondered what I thought. So, and this is about how to read cards generally, because there isn't one card that represents a good electrician, right? It's easy to think, okay, we want to know, are we going to have a good relationship? And we're looking for a card or 2 cards or a combination of cards that indicate, yes, definitely a good relationship. But I don't think that's a very productive way to look at the tarot and to try and read cards. But if we think, okay, we're going to hire an electrician, what do we want in a good electrician? And probably we want somebody who is good at what they do, somebody who has expertise, and somebody who is maybe well educated or well trained, but somebody who has good expertise, maybe somebody who's got experience as well. Because if you're wiring a house for the first time, do you want somebody who maybe took a class here and there, and they've got a qualification, but they've never actually wired a house, right? So you probably want somebody who's got hands-on experience, who has a certain skill level. Somebody who's also probably value for money, right? Because you can get 2 people who are equally good, but one charges twice as much. Is it worth spending the extra, whatever, double amount of money, or the extra amount of money to get somebody who's basically as good as the first one? Okay, I'll get to that question in a minute. Okay, so boy, it's funny how I read something and my head goes off in some other place, and I'm trying to remember what I was talking about. Okay, I must stop looking at the questions. So the electrician. So you want somebody who's experienced, who's capable. Maybe they give value for money as well, and somebody who's going to do work that will last. Right. So what we do then is we're going to look at these cards that come up, And we're going to see, not is this a card of a good electrician, but we're going to look at the card and see, does it show skill? So the Three of Pentacles, the card of the craftsman, shows somebody who's a high level of skill. So if that card came up, we would like it, right? So that would be a good pointer that this electrician is the one to choose. Whereas if you get, let's say, the Seven of Swords, which shows somebody awkwardly carrying 5 swords, and there's 2 stuck in the ground, that doesn't look like somebody who knows exactly what they're doing, right? So we would think the Seven of Swords isn't what we're looking for to choose that particular person to be the electrician. So it's more, so when somebody asks you a question, instead of thinking what's the best card to get for a good answer, what you do is you look at, you think about the qualities or the kinds of situations or the kind of conditions that you would ideally want, and then you relate the card that comes up to that kind of condition. Okay, I'm lost here. You can answer me when you can. Okay, so somebody wanted to know, I have to go back. Can you change a terrible outcome for the person into a positive for the person and it's still accurate? That's a hard question to answer. Mainly, or generally because I like an actual example. I wonder about general rules that maybe sound okay, but I think it's always better with the tarot when you're asking questions or looking at cards if you've got an actual example that can be used to come up with a yes or a no or a positive or negative. Can you change a bad outcome into a positive one? My first thought is, why would you want to? This takes us into a whole other area because I think the reader is the reader, and you're not the person's mother. So it's not up to the reader to make things easy for the questioner. And if it looks, let's say you're in a romantic relationship and you get, for the future, the reader gets a Tower reversed and the World reversed. This is not going to work out, you would say, from those 2 cards. So what do? What's the right thing to do for the questioner? Do you tell them, do you try and twist things or change things to make it easy for them? Or do you say to them, it looks like it's not going to work, but instead of saying it's not going to work, you explain why, and maybe that's the point that I would answer your question with. So you're not just saying what, but you're also explaining a bit of why, right? So with the relationship that's going wrong and a bad outcome, like the Tower reversed as the final outcome, you say it's not going to work because. And then you look at the Tower reverse and explain why it's not going to work and why the person is better off being away from that relationship, right? So you can say that things like, okay, looking at the Tower reversed, if you and the person get into difficulties with each other, you're not going to be able to figure them out. Whereas with somebody else, with some people, you have a difficulty, but you resolve it and you get back together again. You're a friend, you fall out, but you get back together. With this person that you're involved with now, you're going to say things you didn't mean. You're going to hurt each other. You're going to be cruel. You're going to there's this cart. There used to be a magazine called Punch in Britain. Maybe it's still around, but there was this cartoon that I've never forgotten. I must have seen it in 1963, something like that. And what it showed was, it was the Napoleonic Wars, and you've got the Austrian armies coming this way, and you've got the French armies coming this way, and you've got the British army coming this way, and they're all huge armies converging on this group of people in the middle, and they've got a banner up, and they're called the 1st Battalion, the Innocent Bystanders. And that's so true. So with this tower reversed, it's a bit like if you get involved in difficulties or upsets or fights with this other person, you're going to be one of the innocent bystanders. You're going to get hurt, and there's nothing you can do to stop the hurt. So that's why the relationship ought not to continue, or is not going to continue. So you're explaining what, but if you can also look at the card and explain to some extent why. So maybe continuing on from there, you think, okay, so it's not going to work because if there are difficulties, you and the partner, you're sort of on different wavelengths. So maybe you've got some money that you want to spend, and you want to spend the $2,000 on going on a trip, like a holiday to, I don't know, some island somewhere and get a break, right? But the other person wants to buy a big screen TV, and so you can sit in the basement and watch football, right? So what are you going to do? In a relationship or a situation like that, where one person wants to do one thing and the other person wants to do something totally different, you can't really compromise. And that's a kind of situation that would face you in the future because the tower is reversed. So I'm coming up with examples that I'm coming up with. If you think about the tower reversed, it's something going wrong. What type of situation could happen that would be a difficulty? And you would come up with your own example, and you would discover that the kinds of examples you come up with are the kinds of things that actually happen, because you're in the room or you're dealing with the person who's asking the question. And that's sort of a proper use of being tuned into the other person, or a proper use of your intuition, right? So you know that with the tower reversed, the relationship is not going to work, and you explain why. So your explanation of why is based on you and your state of mind or understanding at that moment, and it would be accurate. Run and sort the name. Okay. I can't. Peter is saying something about sorting out the neighbour. Or maybe you can all see the comments.
Yeah, everybody can see the comments.
Oh, everybody. Oh, my assistant. This is my son over here. You can't see him. He wants to be off camera. So you can all see. Okay, I can't keep up with this at the moment. So let me just deal with the cards that I was going to deal with, and once I get the hang of this, I'll see if I can keep up to date. Or maybe what I'll do is, I'm thinking as well, the next, I'm going to set up another event. I quite enjoy doing this kind of stuff, so I'm thinking I'll do another one, and I'm thinking next Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, which is 9 o'clock in Europe, but it's also 8 in the morning in Australia, because there's a couple of people in Australia who complained about this 1 o'clock Eastern Time because it's not convenient for them. So I'm thinking next Friday. So maybe I'll incorporate some of the comments or the questions that people ask. I'll incorporate that into the next scheduled event. But to get back to the electricians. Okay, so electrician number 1, it's 3 cards for each one. So what the person did was she shuffled and then picked 3 cards and wrote them down. Then she put all the cards back in the deck and shuffled again and picked 3 more cards. For this, the reason for doing this is, instead of picking 3 cards and then another 3 cards, you put them back because you could get the same card each time. Or you could get the same card coming up more than once, and that's telling you something about the people, right? So if you're going to do what's the best way to deal with the situation, pick cards, but then put them all back and shuffle and start, and then pick, let's say, 3 more or 5 more, because if you get the same cards coming up, you ought to do something with that fact. Okay, 9 p.m. Scottish time. Okay, it's always 9 p.m. Scottish time. Okay, so the electrician then, there were three of them. So electrician number one, the first card he got was the Two of Pentacles. And let me turn to my assistant. Can you see that on screen?
There's a delay, so you should be able to. It'll pop up in a minute.
Okay.
So keep talking. I'll let you know if it comes
Okay.
through.
So the Two of Pentacles. So going back to the question, do you want this card shows somebody juggling, and he's on one foot, and he's maybe slightly off balance. So going back to an electrician, you want stability, you want expertise, experience, you want value for money. Do you want the Two of Pentacles to represent your electrician? It's pentacles, but they're sort of juggling. So is this an indication that he's going to try and cut corners? He'll quote you a certain price, but he'll buy in. Let's say you get copper wire, and you get some copper wire is $2 a foot. Other copper wire is $1.50 a foot. He'll tell you he's going to get the $2 stuff, but he'll actually get the $1.50 stuff. Even though the card is upright, do you want potential pitfalls? Do you want somebody who's juggling to be installing your electrical work? And at this point, I don't know. But it's looking at the card and thinking about the question and making sense of the card that comes up, rather than what does it mean. You're thinking what's the connection? What sense does this card make to do with this particular question? And the Two of Pentacles is okay, but do you want somebody juggling who's in charge of setting up the wiring in your house? And I don't know if you do. Next is the Three of Batons, which you should be able to see. So the Three of Batons is this fellow standing on a hillside overlooking, and it's a good card, right? So we can be, when we get the Three of Batons, we can be happy for whatever reason, depending on what the question is. But with this one, it's generally a good card and a positive outcome and good things happening. But if we look at the picture, the fellow's looking out to sea, and we see his ships, but we don't know if the ships are coming back safely, right? Or if they're just setting out. So even though it's a good card, there can be a little bit of doubt because there's something we're not quite sure about with this particular card, even though it's a good one. So we've got a little bit of doubt with the Three of Batons. We've got a little bit of doubt and juggling with the Two of Pentacles. So two quantities of doubt to do with the electrician. I don't know if electrician number one is very good. And the third one was the Knight of Pentacles. I think it was reversed. I had it written down. No, it's okay. I think it was reversed. It's Knight of Pentacles. So it was reversed. Okay. So the Knight of Pentacles, as you see. So going back to experience and capability that we want in an electrician. The Knight of Pentacles looks kind of slow-witted and dull, right? He doesn't look that on top of things or, alert. And the fact that it's upside down, do you want a slow, plodding approach to getting the work done quickly? Also, it's Pentacles, which is money, but it's upside down. So this can mean that with him, he'd give you a quote, but he would end up cutting corners for his own sake, or else wanted to charge you more. So from these, the two bits of doubt with the first two and the Knight of Pentacles reversed, I don't think I would hire builder or electrician number one to do the electrics in my house. Excuse me. Number two. First card was to get the King of Batons upright, right? Some people don't like reverse cards. I don't see how you can do a reading without reverse cards, because if nothing else, it shows a delay or a glitch, right? So Because the King of Battens was upright. This is somebody who's capable. He's a king. He's upright. If the king had been upside down, he would be somebody who thought he was capable and good at giving orders, but he actually isn't. Right? But the king is upright. So that looks good for somebody with skill, with experience, who gives value for money, who gives good advice, who is basically worth having. Right? The king of Battens. Then we got. I can't remember if the devil was reversed or not, and I can't stop to look. But we've got the devil. The devil was reversed. That's right. Okay, so this looks bad, generally speaking. What are you looking for? No, it's okay. It's somewhere else. Okay, that was my assistant looking for my piece of paper where I wrote down the thing. So the devil reversed. So if you look, the devil is limitation, restriction. So do you want the electrician to be represented by restriction? But you look at the picture, right? The man and the woman are chained to the cube. So the man and the woman could be the woman who's having the house built and her husband, right? So, and the devil could be the electrician. But the trouble is with electricians and with builders, you're always at their mercy anyway, right? It's like going to buy a used car. You don't know what you're getting because used car dealers, they're all sort of crooked and bent, and they'll sell you something even though they know they shouldn't sell it. And it's kind of the same with builders, because you can understand they've got to fill their time. So they'll say they'll do the job, but they've got other jobs on the go at the same time, so they have to juggle. Saying juggle reminds me of that first card for the Two of Pentacles. So maybe that's another thing about the first electrician, that he would have more than one job on the go at the same time, and so he probably wouldn't be that reliable. Or if something went wrong at another job, he would end up not showing up when he said he would show up for you, just because of the nature of Two of Pentacles. So the devil can be the husband, the woman and her husband, and that can be the electrician. But at the same time, the woman can be the woman who's having the house built, and the man can represent the builder, the electrician rather, and they're both trapped, because the electrician can find that his suppliers don't have what he needs, or they make promises to him and they don't come through. That kind of situation. So we can look at the devil reverse and think we don't want anything to do with this fellow. But actually, if you look at the devil reverse and consider the question, it's suppliers and electricians and work and things can always go wrong with building. So is it a bad card? Maybe on its own it is, but it's sort of understandable. But the other thing is, the third card that this second builder got was judgment, right? And this is a judgment card where you've got the people in coffins, but the coffin lids are now open, so the people who had been trapped are now free to move around. In the same kind of way that the people in the devil card who are chained to this cube are now no longer trapped, right? So it looks to me like the judgment card, representing renewal and rebirth, is the antidote to anything that would go wrong with the devil reversed. So I went with builder number 2, or electrician number 2, because we've got the King of Battens, we've got judgment upright, even though we've got the devil reversed. Because the devil reversed can simply be, it's sort of par for the course idea that with building, you're always going to have problems and difficulties. And this electrician is going to have problems and difficulties, but with the judgment card, he's going to solve them. And everybody's going to be happy at the end as well with the judgment card. Looking at the time, the third builder, he was represented first by the Fool. Now it's a major card trump and it's upright. But I couldn't help thinking, do you want the full involved with doing electrical work? Because the full is a major tremor, but it's upright, so it sort of ought to be good. But the fool can also be foolish or take risks or take shortcuts that he really ought not to take, or he's asking for trouble by rushing into things, right? Headstrong, a sudden rush of blood to the head, so I don't know about the fool. I know it's a major tremor, but it's upright, and I keep saying that, but do we want the fool connected with our electrical work? And somehow I'm still with electrician number 2. So the fool also, the third electrician had the fool first, then he had the 4 of swords, right? Which shows this person lying on a slab, and we've got 3 swords in the wall, and we've got 1 down below him. And this person looks, okay, we want stability and expertise from the electrician and skill, right? This fellow, this 4 of swords, looks like somebody who's got other things in his mind, right? So does this mean that electrician number 3 would be distracted? He would do the work in a kind of mechanical way, but he wouldn't be paying attention to what he was doing because his thoughts would be elsewhere. Because we've got a nice little colourful scene up in the stained glass window of the church here, right? So there's up here, disconnected or unconnected to the main story of the picture, you've got this nice, pretty scene up here. So is the electrician going to be only have half his mind on the job that's being done, and the other half of his mind is on something else, either on the job or what he's going to do at the weekend, or how his football team, Peter Glasnich, thinking of you again, his football team is doing, so that he doesn't do the good. The question was, we want somebody who's skillful, who's going to give value for money, but is also going to be capable. Do you want somebody represented by by this picture, going back to the Mona Lisa and Queen Elizabeth I? Look at the picture and relate what's going on in the picture to the kinds of qualities we want in the person we're hiring to do this particular kind of work. If you'd wanted somebody to paint your portrait, then the 4 of Swords is fine. You know, because maybe they would paint you better looking than you actually are, right? Or they would paint an idealized picture of you because their mind is up here on the ideal you rather than on your wrinkles or your, I don't know what, your badly cut hair. I don't know what you've got. Okay, the other thing is, this is the 4 of Swords, but we see 3 swords up on the wall and 1 down below. This person looks as if he's taken his tools and he's hung them away. It's as if he's not that interested in the sword anymore. He's put it aside. So is this telling us that the electrician number 3 is bored of being an electrician? He wants to hang up his screwdrivers and his snips and other things for cutting wire, and he's not that interested anymore. He would rather be sleeping. He'd rather be taking a nap. Or if you do hire him, he'll show up at 8 in, but first thing he has to have a tea break, and then he has to have, check his email or whatever electricians do, right? So you've got that kind of, so with the fool who's got big ideas but maybe doesn't have the experience to carry them through, and then you've got the 4 of Swords, which is the person who wants a rest, and the third card we get the 5 of Cups, right? So the 5 of Cups, thinking of electricians and building work, we've got 3 cups in front and 2 cups behind. Does this mean that electrician number 3 is going to have half his mind on what went wrong or what could go wrong? Because the attention seems to be on the cups that have been knocked over, where the liquid has been spilled, rather than on the two cups here that are still in good shape. So is he going to be easily distracted and not pay attention, or not, or is he going to be thinking, well, things are going to go wrong anyway, so there's not much point in doing it right the first time? Or is he going? He's certainly not a perfectionist, I would think, this individual. I'm thinking of this because if you look, the first video from a few days ago, the test that turned out to be streaming that I didn't know was streaming, if you look at the background, you'll see it's been changed because there was mess up on top of the bookcase there, and I didn't really care. And the black cloth that I use as a backdrop for other videos, it wasn't sort of centered. And David, my son, I said, what do you think? And he said, well, he would have set up a dedicated area. He would have done it his way. He would have taken the time. I just wanted to get it done, get started. But he would have taken the time to set up, an area and get it looking nice. So this morning we moved the curtain, the cloth over, and I cleaned up the top of the bookcase and moved boxes just to make it look a little bit better. So if you want an electrician, hire David, right? Because don't hire me, because I'll sort of do it slapdash. It'll be fun and it'll be good and it'll be enjoyable, and we'll get there eventually. But if you want stability and common sense, choose David to do the electrical work. In the same way that this Five of Cups is a bit like the difference between somebody who takes time, ignores what hasn't worked, because what's important is the two cups that are upright and doing things properly. Okay, so those are the 9 cards that the person got for the 3 electricians, and I picked the one in the middle, the second one, who was the King of Batons, even though the devil was reversed. And then I picked, and then the Judgment card, which I thought would make everything fine in the long run, and everybody would be happy. Okay, let me turn to my assistant. Is anything I should answer?
Some people just asking how long you've been on for and that, but that's fine.
I've been on for 47 minutes and 16 seconds.
I would get people to re-ask their questions if they've got any questions.
Okay,
Sorry, one more thing. It's also going to probably automatically cut off
in
13 minutes.
Okay.
So wind down before that clock runs out.
Okay, so when I set up the event on YouTube, I thought there was a little notification saying that it would automatically start streaming, but I had to press the start streaming now button on the program that I'm using. So David just mentioned that it may suddenly stop after an hour because I sort of set up an hour for the video or the screencast or whatever you call this thing. So has anybody got any questions?
Just get them to re-ask.
Could you re-ask?
Because you also may have answered some of them.
You mean it? Okay. Only because I'm streaming it. Okay. Any thoughts on the snail in the foreground in the 9 of coins? Yeah, that 9. I don't know if I could find the 9 of coins easily, but if you look, you'll see there's a little snail. Snail is okay. What's a snail? It moves slowly, right? So it can mean that it can be telling us slow and steady wins the race, right? Because we've got this. It's okay. If you have, let's say somebody wants to know, am I going to have a good relationship with this particular person? And you get the 9 of Pentacles. If you happen to notice the snail, do something with it. Because you can look at that 9 of Pentacles, and even though you know the snail is there, maybe the next time you see the card, you won't remember that the snail is there, or you won't notice the snail. But if you do remember this, if you do notice the snail in that particular reading at that time, then do something with it. So you think about snails. So that the snail can, because it moves slowly, if you've ever looked at a snail, it moves slowly along the ground. So it can be reminding the questioner, because in a lot of ways, the cards that come up is really the questioner talking to themselves through the pictures. So with the Snail, with the Nine of Pentacles, it can mean that this questioner is really reminding themselves, or you, the reader, are meant to remind the questioner, take it easy and go. You're better to go slowly. And slow and steady wins the race, because there's a snail there. But snails, if you've ever noticed snails, they've got some kind of fluid that they sort of move along. And if you look, you can see a little trail behind them. And that could be important. So let's say somebody wants to know, I'm going to rob my next door neighbour. Will I get away with it? And you say, no, because you're going to leave a trail. Right? So the idea of leaving evidence behind you, or leaving a trail, or leaving an indication of how you got there, is something that may have to be considered. Right? So it can be, let's say you want to know, okay, how am I going to do in the interview tomorrow? And you get the Nine of Pentacles. It can be, if you notice a snail, you might want to say to the person, think about how you came to apply to that company. So your past, the trail that you left, is going to be important in some way. So maybe you think about what attracted you to the company in the beginning, which is why you applied to them. Or maybe you remember 2 or 3 comments that other people made about that particular company that struck you, that you would want to be associated with them. So when they say to you in the interview, why do you want to work with us? You say, well, okay, about 3 months ago, I was talking to blah, 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 and he said such and such, and I thought, that's the kind of company I want to work with. So if you give that as an example in the interview, they're going to like you, and that's going to work. So the snail could, because it leaves a trail, it could be that the trail, making sense of the idea of a trail to do with a job interview. That's one way of applying the symbolism. So we've also got the snail going slowly. It leaves a trail. Also, snails have got their own little house that they live in. But if you've got this shell, I almost said plastic shell, around them, so the idea of taking your home with you can be important, or taking what you're comfortable with along with you as you go. So let's say I want to apply to this other company. And so the question is, if you leave where you are now, will you be able to take what you enjoy in your current job into the new one? And if you're going to be, maybe it's the same industry and you like the industry, or if you've got certain responsibilities or certain tasks that you have to follow, if you can take that same type of experience that you enjoy, that you're comfortable with, into the new job or in the new company, then it'll work. But if you know that you like, let's say you like dealing with people on a one-to-one, you like talking with customers, and you like sorting out their problems, hearing about their problems, and fixing things for them. And that's what you really enjoy most about the job. If you're applying for the same kind of job in a new company, but in this new company, you're not going to have the same amount of contact with people who have actual problems. If you don't have any authority to make some kind of change, to fix things for the customer, because it's through a different department, that's not going to work as well for you. Right? So we've got the idea of comfort and taking your comfortableness or your state of comfort with you into a new situation, because the snail moves, it changes its position, but it keeps the shell with it. And the other thing I thought was snail shells are actually quite fragile. They're not that. They're relative. I mean, an ant can't easily smash a snail's shell, but a human can stand on it and it's gone. So maybe relative size is going to be important with the snail's shell, so that if you're dealing with people on your level, you're protected. But if you're dealing with people on a much higher level or a different level, you're not going to be protected. You can't assume that because you manage to survive through difficulties where you are right now, that you're going to be able to survive through similar difficulties in the future, because the force and the power of people in the future is going to be much more than your shell can handle. And that could be a consideration that would be important for the Nine of Pentacles coming up for a snail, or having the snail. Does that answer your question? Okay. Any thoughts on the snail? The next one, is the Empress pregnant in the picture?
You've got 4 minutes.
Is she pregnant? Possibly. She certainly looks as if she could be, ought to be, wants to be. So the sun, and also the Empress is. Again, it depends on the question. But if you think, if somebody wants to know, am I going to get married and have children, and you get the Empress, then yes, you are, and you'll have more than, let's say, more than one child. But if it's somebody who wants to go to art school, and you get the Empress, then that looks good for going to art school, because you're going to have ideas, you're going to have offspring, right? Because children are ideas are mental children, right? So she looks as if she's fertile, right? She's got ideas, imagination, social skills, and so on, that kind of thing. So if you want to go to art school and you get the Empress, it's going to work. If you want to go to art school and you get the Empress reversed, you're going to get there and you're going to be able to follow orders. But when they say to you, okay, come up with your own ideas, you're going to struggle, I think, from the Empress being reversed, because you're good at following orders, but you're not that creative when it comes to having ideas or doing things. I'm trying to think of an example. My son David over there, he's over there. He makes glass, or used to make glass. But when he was learning how to make glass, I sometimes went into the studio and where, or the school where things were going on, and I would look at some people were quite good at turning the glass and blowing and so on, but you looked at the finished product, a lot of it wasn't very good. It wasn't very imaginative. And it didn't flow, and it didn't have that much shape, even though it was a vase, let's say, but the color wasn't well chosen, or it didn't work, or the shape was not quite beautiful. But not that everything has to be beautiful, but if something is non-beautiful, it can still be striking, but it works. But some of the people just they would make the glass, but it just didn't work. And that's a personal opinion, but you can sort of tell when somebody has artistic ability and when they don't. And I think with the Empress reversed, you've got, when the Empress is upright, anything she does looks right, looks good. With the Empress reversed, something doesn't work. Something is missing, or it doesn't quite come together. I'm looking at my clock on the screen here, and it says 59 minutes and 19 seconds. Where did the hour go? I have no idea. Earlier this morning, I was wondering, what am I going to say for an hour? But I knew that once I get started, I just can't stop. So sorry about not. I'll look at your questions, and if there's anything there, I can deal with them next time. Otherwise, I'm thinking next. I'll post an event in YouTube, and I'll get the URL and put it on Facebook and maybe other places as well, or email me. So thank you very much for watching. Have a nice day. And I've got 2 seconds, and then I may cut out.
So in theory it stopped. I'll watch it on the screen and see if it actually stops, but you may as well click stop streaming.